I'm Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Training. Welcome to our Ministry Design Process and Overview. The webinar today is designed to help you look at the overall process and asking you a series of questions that you'll need to answer as you go through the process of being your ministry's architect. And so whether you're the senior pastor on staff or a part of the leadership team that is guiding and directing your ministry there, if you're going to develop a program or a ministry that is going to effectively fulfill your calling as a church, there is a process you can follow and to enable you to discover what it is, design it, develop it, build it, and then deploy it, implement it, and then to make adjustments. We're going to talk about that process right now. And so as we look at this, let me help you to see, first of all, we've broken the ministry design process into 4 phases: discovery, design, delivery, and direction. You'll understand what these are as we go, but let me help you to understand from the outset that each one of the parts of your design process, the components, are building one upon the other, like this pyramid I'm putting right in front of you right now. That if you don't do and discover and develop your core values, you're going to be building your mission upon those. And if you have a faulty foundation, think of Christ speaking about the man who built his house upon the sand. And so as you look at either an underdeveloped or undeveloped ministry design, there are several questions that you need to be asking yourself. As you begin this process, what is most important right now? What is mission critical? What is the bandwidth of your ministry? By that I mean your capabilities and your capacity. Let me explain that to you. If I have the capability to juggle 2 tennis balls at the same time, and so I'm juggling them, which I can do that. I can juggle them 2, but that's my capabilities. But what is my capacity? My capacity is 2 tennis balls at one time, not 3. So as you look at your ministry, you've got to begin getting an idea of what the bandwidth, the capabilities, and capacity of your ministry is. Then you've got to marry that together with the bandwidth of your property. Again, looking at the capabilities and the capacity of your property, you're not going to have 1-acre site and be able to run 400 people at one time on 1 acre or even 2 acres. So you've got to look at the bandwidth of your property and all of its scope, the size of it, the way it's designed, how it's put together, your parking, your worship, your education, your fellowship, your gathering areas, your recreational areas, your staff, where your offices are, your restrooms, on and on and on you go. As you look at your property, you've got to marry together the bandwidth of both your ministry and your property. And so when you look at this, what ministry space is needed most to carry out what is mission critical? Do you have it, or do you need to add some or repurpose certain areas of your existing facility? And what is your main focus of your ministry? Some ministries will say, well, the main focus of our church is the preaching of God's Word. It's the pulpit. Another says, well, it's small groups. Another says it's Sunday school. Another says it's some outreach, or maybe an activity like upward basketball or upward football or soccer for your youth, and that you're reaching families that way. And that's the main focus that you have for your ministry. So when you look at your ministry within your ministry design, how it's planned and how it's being carried out in your processes, what is the main focus? What is your disciple-making process? Do you have step 1, 2, 3, 4 that you're taking people through so they become a fully devoted and developed follower of Christ? Or do you have a different definition of what a disciple is? What is your volunteer recruitment process? Somewhere down the line, you need to evaluate the people in your church, the members. You need to enlist them into ministry so they're willing to be equipped, step 3. and then to equip them, educate them, and then engage them in ministry and continue to empower them and encourage them. What does your process look like for building leaders and servants in and through your ministry, both on your campus and out in the community and around the world? So, you want to marry together your discipleship, volunteer, and leadership development. Now, as we talk about the discovery phase of your ministry design process, we want to look at phase one, the discovery phase, and talk about congregational discovery. Have you ever dealt with your core values? In defining what a value is, remember there are true, actual core values, and then there's aspirational, what you aspire to, core values, and then there's inspirational, ones that you feel like it really inspire you, what's passionate, what you're passionate about. You need to make certain that that your congregation is in alignment and agreement, not in misalignment and disagreement. When it comes, and this is the second part of the pyramid I showed you, your mission, your mandate. If you have competing causes, you're in trouble. Let me tell you, guys like Gary McIntosh, he is a professor in a seminary out west in California, Biola, and as he ministers and teaches in his writings, he talks about dueling visions, or he calls them double visions, I think, is the number one cause for pastors being dismissed, fired from their ministries. They believe that God's vision for their ministry is one thing, and other key stakeholders or leaders in their church believe that it is another. And so there needs to be a discovery time where you are nailing down and agreeing on, again, alignment versus misalignment, agreement versus disagreement over your core values, what's most important, and is driving your ministry. Look at what's driving your ministry. Look at where they put the most money, the most time, and the most emphasis. That genuinely probably is where your values really are. For a guy to say, my family, my marriage is the number one value in my life, and then he never spends time with his wife or works to build his marriage or lead her spiritually, I would question that it's really a true core value. Your mission is what you're directed to do, what you're called to do of the Lord, and your vision is where you're headed, your destination, God's preferred future. It's what you want your ministry to look like as it grows up and matures. A port of call, if you would. And then every church has a code, an ethos, or an essence of who they are, their DNA, their genetic makeup. And so you begin to examine that, and you say, well, it has many parts. Well, so does your body. But your body has an ethos, an essence of your personality, your shape, your spiritual gifts, your heart, your passions, your abilities, your personality, and the church's experience, and it's a code. And when you're designing your ministry game plan, your long-term strategic plan for your ministry and your short-term strategic plan for your ministry, you don't want to enact or try and put into play any kind of program, process, or activity that is in direct violation of the code, who the church is. And it takes some time to think through this and observe and talk to lots of people, usually, to come up with that idea. A book I tell you to read to learn more about this is Transforming Church by Kevin. And he'll be able to help you with this. Culture is the very environment. Your culture is a part of your code. Congregational condition. By that, I mean whether they're fit for going through whatever the design of your ministry is, or just healthy. And I distinguish between those two levels of conditioning. I am considered healthy by my doctor. The absence of disease, but I would not be considered fit for, say, rock climbing or long distance running or playing full court basketball with a bunch of college kids. I'm not in that kind of condition. I'm healthy, Nothing's threatening my life. Everything, heart rate, blood pressure, and cholesterol, and my vision, and so forth, all of that is working fine. But I'm not in shape to do certain things. You need to know the condition of your flock. Scripture tells you to. Doesn't Peter talk about that? So when you go through the ministry design process, you better look at their conditioning, and their commitment is a part of that. You know, it's one thing to have them say, yes, we want to reach people with the gospel. We want to do this. But then you hear them complaining if they have to attend a different service or serve a little more or sit in a different place, or you're changing something about the ministry, and you begin to find out they really don't mean what they say. So you need to test your congregational commitment to your ministry and to your project of your ministry design. Now, community discovery, demographics. You know, what age are they? What's a family unit consist of? Are they college or high school educated? What kind of job do they have? What's their income? Do they own or rent their home? That's demographics. Psychographics, lifestyle, worldview, politics, how they view different things, the family, the country, their psycho, their mentally, how are they thinking? Psychographics. Eclographics, both your church and other churches, who is it made up of? What if you determined that there was a certain kind of person in your ministry, in your community, that attended church and came to your kind of church, and you found a pocket of them that were unchurched or dechurched and needed to be rechurched, and you go and lead them to Christ, and you target ways to reach them. Eclographics can help you. Common links. You want to build bridges to your community. You want to wrap up those common links with a belt, so you tie them together in groups, and you want to put them into bundles. And so you're looking for common links between your congregation and their shape, spiritual gifts, heart, abilities, personality, and experience, and looking at the different pockets of shapes within your church, helping people discern where they would fit, both to minister to your membership, but also to the members of your community that are unchurched, dechurched, and need to be rechurched. And so as you do that, you're looking to build bridges. Now, if we live missionally, we might be able to do away with the conversation about having to build bridges, because they're living with those people and they're in the world but not of the world, meaning ungodly. You've taught your people to find that fine line so that they can infiltrate and penetrate lost people's lives and build relationships that gives them an opportunity to win that person to Christ. They're gaining an audience to share Christ with them by life and lip. And so you as a church whole, though, is this a part of your ministry design? And you've got to figure these things out. You go from the discovery phase to the design phase, and I'm talking about strategic planning, and that's a huge topic. But what is your particular plan for obeying God's calling? As you look at your whole master ministry plan or ministry master plan, I'm not talking about your facilities, even though that's a part of the discussion. I'm talking about how you're put together in all its pieces. How is your church working together to accomplish strategically its what's its battle plan? How are you going to go and carry out your calling that God has given to you? How are you carrying out God's calling in your church? What can you do to give you the easiest avenue to people in your community? So you want to play to your strengths, not to your weaknesses, is what I would probably tell you. And often we're so focused on our weaknesses, trying to fix those, that we fail to give priority to our strengths and identifying those to help us. And so you can use books by like Tom Rath on Strength Finders and other books like that that will help you play to your strengths. They're on our website, Ministry Design Concepts. You can go to the book reviews and pull out those and to be able to help you. That's why we put the resources there. so that you can read and study. And within our ministry design training in the days ahead, Lord permitting, we're going to do book summaries so that we can take and put this information in front of you and help you decide which book to invest your time and effort in for your particular ministry. So how can you best connect to them? Is there agreement on how your ministry design translates into a facility design? In other words, if you feel like God would have you to have a recreational outreach, say you were going to do an invitational basketball tournament, national or regional, say in the southeast where I am or elsewhere, and you're going to invite all of these high school students and college scouts are going to come out, or you're going to do college and have pro scouts come out, and you're doing a huge outreach in your area. But you don't have a gym to do it in, you need to stop and look, how are you going to make this happen? And so as you design something like that, you need to look at your facility, because in our country, it's just a part of the equation. Is there agreement about how that will look? So again, the number one reason, according to Gary McIntosh, why churches fire their pastors is dueling visions. It's not double visions where you have the same vision twice. It's dueling this where they're in opposition to each other and they are competing for the hearts and minds of the congregation. Is there agreement about your ministry priorities? Is there agreement about your overall game plan to fulfill the Great Commission? Are your ministries in alignment? A book written by Tom Rainer and others where they did the research and wrote Simple Church. Have you read that yet? To look at a way for you to take a mature ministry that has been around for years and has been pieced together, like Johnny Cash's old song. I remember hearing it as a kid, talking about he worked in a factory, a car factory, and he built a car, but it had parts from Mercury, Lincoln, and Ford. And as he brought home the parts and drove down the road, people laughed because it was put together. It wasn't a Taurus or a Focus or an Escape or an F-150. It was all of those blended together. And a lot of our ministries really aren't in alignment in their vision, our mission, our core values, or in their strategic plan. They're not working together. They're maybe competing against each other, and people become isolated in their involvement and commitment to one part of your ministry, and it's not good. It's not healthy. You're certainly not fit. Now, let's move from that to the ministry design process dealing with implementation. We often have churches go through the discovery phase and do the design phase and get to the implementation of this, where they're going to deliver what they have designed, and they're going to build it and put it into action, and they fall apart. It doesn't go that far in the process. So, are all your ministries in alignment? Your ministry performance, as you monitor that and you implement it, how is it going to work? So it's one thing to show people how it's going to work on paper and even discussing it. It's another thing to go try it and see what happens. Is your performance organized, coordinated, orchestrated, interrelated? Is there teamwork? Ministry is a team sport. And so if you aren't organized and coordinated and you're not orchestrating everything together so that it's interrelated, for instance, if you're a football fan and you've got two wide receivers standing by each other or stacked, and they're going to run patterns, are there patterns that they're going to run organized? Are they coordinated and orchestrated and interrelated so that in their teamwork, if they're going to do a cross-cut pattern, one's going deep, one's doing a button hook, one's doing a curl, are they going to run into each other, or are they going to make the defenders run into each other? Are they going to get open and their timing right with the quarterback? Are they going to run the pattern fast enough to get the ball? Are they going to be at the spot on the field where the ball is being delivered to? How are you going to perform? All of that is a part of church. Now, roll that thought over into your ministry design and the implementation of that strategic plan so that it is productive. And so in the production of that, is there spiritual transformation taking place by how you're performing? So if we believe and understand and interpret that Christ said, why are you waiting 4 months to harvest? The fields are already white unto harvest. Send you laborers into the field. And he deals with that in several places in the Gospels. Do you see what you're doing as an agreement with God's mind on the matter about how you are to go about, where you're to go about, who you're to target, to preach the gospel and win them to Christ and to make disciples? Are you seeing people come to Christ, and are you see them growing up into Christ-likeness? Are they becoming fully devoted and developed followers of Christ? However you have described disciple-making, so that you know one when you see it. Is spiritual transformation taking place in your ministry through your design? Are you getting the results you planned? Have you set some target numbers saying we want to see this many people reach this platform or this point in their spiritual maturity to help them target it, to shoot for it? I mean, how many of us go on a diet and say I want to lose weight but not set a target date and a target time and the kind of weight we want to lose? Because there's a lot of ways to go about getting in shape. Losing weight is a part of the process for most of us. And so as you look at this, we move then to the next area is direction. And by this, I'm talking about the management and to monitor your game plan, your implementation. So you put it into place, and now you're going to monitor it and measure it and modify it and manage it so that you can tell what you need to adjust. And you're making adjustments, and your people have to be willing to let you make adjustments. And the longer a ministry has been in place and used, the more fixed people become in their commitment to the way they do it, and it makes it harder to make adjustments to your ministry. So in summary here, you need to identify your church. Who are you? What are you called to do? How are you called to do it? Your community intelligence of who you're trying to reach, where are you trying to reach them, how are you trying to reach them. Your ministry master plan precedes your master plan of your facilities, and it is what is the long-term vision for your ministry and your campus. You need to marry those together. What are your church model benchmarks? Your projected growth cycle, your projected age cycle, and what is your game plan? You begin to marry together your personnel and your property and your plan with God's thinking on what His mind is on every matter. And at Ministry Design Training and Ministry Design Concepts, we really want you to discern God's mind on every matter, on every issue, on every part, every person, and every plan of your ministry master plan, so that you can discern His will and create a plan to carry that out. And you need to have agreement and alignment with your congregation and certainly your leadership team to move forward. And so as you look at the levels of change and the cost associated with that, what levels do you want to go with this? Are you going to restore what was originally there and polish it up? Are you going to refurbish it, which is a step a little further beyond that? Are you going to renovate it? So now you're changing some things and the cost is greater. Are you going to redesign what is there and repurpose what it's going to look like? Or are you going to completely replace your ministry design? The level of pain, cost that comes with the change as you go down through these levels increases as you go. And you need to determine as you look at your ministry and know that you need to perhaps redesign it or replace entirely what is there, that you need to look at your people, because in most congregations and in any group of people who are working together for a common good, you're going to have 5 different groups as to how they respond to change. And so determining the cost of any change that you make, you need to identify what people and how many people fall into the following different sections or responses to change. The first one is you have instant responders to change. They are just waiting for you to give what the change needs to be, and they're instantly committed. Then you have the second group, the early responders. They respond early when they've heard everything, and they're easily convinced that they need to make the change to further the cause of Christ in your church. Then you have the middle group, the third group of the five, that are the normal or regular. They're just average people who are responding, and they're influenced by the early and instant group. Then you have the fourth group on the other side that are late responders. They may be a personality type, framework, or history of the church, and they are very resistant and take a lot longer than your early and average responders to be convinced that the change is needed, or that it's God's mind on the matter, or that it's going to produce the needed results, or the intended results, which you're wishing to have happen. And then the fifth group are the never adapters. They're not going to adapt to the change. The early adapters, the instant adapters, early adapters, and regular guys, and then the late adapters, you may get all of them on board, but you've got a percentage, 5 to 7 to 8% of your church that may be never adapters, and you may lose them. You've got to manage and lead them as to what they're to do now when you've looked and everyone agrees that there needs to be change because the things have changed in your culture or in your ministry or in both, in your community and in your church. Things have changed, and you need to respond, and it's time to adjust and adapt your ministry model or completely replace that ministry model so that you can carry out God's mind on the matter. He's told you and called you to do something. You have to steward, manage, and lead all the resources, including your people and property and all the parts of your ministry and property of your ministry, so that you can give a good answer to the Lord. You're managing it in His behalf. And so as you look at this, you've got to do some discernment on the front end about the levels of change and the cost associated with that ministry design changes. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon, your pre-construction navigator and ministry design coach, helping you marry together both of those things with our ministry design training and our company, Ministry Design Concepts. You can reach us at our office, or you can reach me on my cell phone at these numbers, and we trust the Lord's blessing on your efforts as you continue to serve the Lord and to determine His mind on every matter. Thank you for listening and watching.